In the high-stakes theater of cardiac surgery, silence is usually a sign of control. It means the team is focused, the patient is stable, and the surgeon is the god of his domain. But at St. Jude's Hospital, at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, the silence was broken by the sound of a career ending, and a life hanging by a thread. The operating room was freezing, kept cold to slow the patient's metabolic rate. Dr. Marcus Holloway, the chief of surgery, had his scalpel raised. He was seconds away from making an incision that would have been routine for him, but fatal for the patient. And then, the impossible happened. A rough, scarred hand, wearing a cheap yellow janitorial glove, clamped onto the surgeon's wrist with the force of a hydraulic press. The surgeon screamed. Security was called. But the man in the gray jumpsuit didn't let go. He didn't blink. He just stared at the monitor that everyone else had ignored. "You make that cut, doctor," the janitor whispered, his voice sounding like gravel grinding on concrete. "And the Admiral's son is dead in 30 seconds. In a hospital, hierarchy is everything. The surgeon is the king. The janitor is the ghost. But today, the ghost just grabbed the king's hand, and he's about to reveal a secret that's been buried since the burning mountains of the Korengal Valley. Welcome back to the Silent Code. We explore the stories of the hidden titans, the men and women who walk among us, disguised by mediocrity, hiding extraordinary pasts. We often talk about camouflage in the military sense, ghillie suits, jungle fatigues, digital patterns designed to blend into the desert sand. But the best camouflage in the modern world isn't green and brown. It's a gray jumpsuit. It's a mop bucket. It's the social invisibility of the service worker. Meet Elias Thorne. To the staff at St. Jude's, he has been a ghost for 6 months. He is the guy who doesn't talk much. The guy with the slight limp in his left leg. The guy who cleans up the messes the important people leave behind. They assume his silence is simple ignorance. They assume his lack of eye contact is submission. But they are wrong. Elias isn't silent because he has nothing to say. He's silent because he is practicing a discipline that kept him alive in places where a snapped twig meant death. He isn't just cleaning the glass of the ICU windows. He's reading the telemetry on the screens inside. He isn't just mopping the floor. He's analyzing the gait of the patients walking by. Elias Thorne is a master of the gray man theory. Blend in. Be forgettable. Be boring. But today, a life is on the line that will force him to break his cover. A life connected to a man from our previous story, Admiral Vance. And when the past comes knocking, the janitor will have to answer. To understand the collision that is about to happen, you have to understand the obstacle. Meet Dr. Marcus Holloway, chief of cardiothoracic surgery at age 38. He is a prodigy. He is brilliant, and he is dangerous. Holloway suffers from what they call the God complex. He believes his hands are infallible. He believes the rules apply to everyone else. He treats the support staff not as colleagues, but as furniture, obstacles to be navigated around. It was 9 a.m. when the first crack in the facade appeared. Holloway was rushing to his rounds, checking his stock portfolio on his phone. Elias was mopping near the elevator, having placed a bright yellow, wet floor sign clearly in the center of the aisle. Holloway walked straight into it. He didn't stumble. He kicked it. The plastic clattered loudly across the freshly polished tile. "Watch where you put that trash," Holloway snapped, not even looking back. Is it too much to ask for a clear path? He didn't stop. He didn't apologize. He stepped over the sign and kept walking, his residents scrambling to keep up. Elias stopped mopping. The hallway was quiet. He slowly bent down to pick up the sign. He didn't say a word, but if you looked closely at Elias's hands, you would see a tremor. Not from fear, but from restraint. The restraint of a man who knows exactly how to dismantle a human body in 6 seconds, but chooses to pick up a plastic sign instead. Elias whispered to himself, a mantra from a different life. Discipline, Thorn. Just clean the floor. The mission is silence. Elias was a former master sergeant in the para-rescue jumpers, the PJs. Their motto is, that others may live. They are the finest combat medics on Earth. Elias had performed surgery in the back of a pitch-black helicopter taking RPG fire. He had held intestines in place with duct tape while returning fire with an M4. Dealing with a rude doctor shouldn't have been hard. But today, the stakes were personal. The VIP wing was on lockdown. The patient was Lieutenant Commander James Vance, the Admiral's only son, a decorated pilot who took shrapnel to the chest during a training exercise gone wrong. Dr. Holloway entered the room, putting on his charming doctor mask. He shook the Admiral's hand, but his eyes kept darting to the Rolex on his wrist. He had a gala to attend that evening. Admiral Vance, an honor, Holloway said, his voice dripping with false sincerity. I've reviewed James's charts. It's a complex pericardial stripping and valve repair. But for me, it's routine. I'll have him fixed up in time for lunch. Admiral Vance looked tired. His voice was gravelly. Doctor, my son has survived 2 tours in Syria. He survived the crash. Do not treat this as routine. There is shrapnel near the aortic arch. It's migrated since the initial scans. Holloway waved his hand dismissively. The scans are from yesterday, Admiral. I know what I'm doing. We're the best hospital in the state. Trust the process. While they talked, Elias was in the corner of the room, emptying the biohazard bin. He moved silently, blending into the beige walls, but his eyes were locked on the patient in the bed. Elias wasn't supposed to be diagnosing, but he couldn't turn off his training. He looked at James Vance. He saw the gray pallor of the skin, the specific shade of gray that comes when the heart is struggling to fill. He saw the way the veins in the lieutenant's neck were pulsing, distended, struggling against back pressure. Beck's triad, low blood pressure, distended neck veins, muffled heart tones. The janitor saw what the god missed. Holloway was looking at scans from yesterday. Elias was looking at the patient right now. The shrapnel had moved. It wasn't just near the aorta anymore. It was resting against it. Elias tightened the knot on the trash bag. He took a step toward the Admiral, intending to speak, to break protocol. But Holloway stepped in between them, blocking Elias's view. You, out, Holloway snapped. We need a sterile environment, not a garbage collector hovering around. Elias froze. He looked at the Admiral. Vance frowned, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, like he'd seen Elias before, but he couldn't place him out of context. Elias lowered his head. Yes, sir. Elias retreated. The code of the hidden man is strict. Do not engage. Do not reveal. But as he walked his cart down the hall, the rhythm of his limp matched the ticking of a clock. He knew the surgery was scheduled for immediately. He knew Holloway was rushing. And he knew that if Holloway cut where he planned to cut, James Vance would die on the table. Surgery is a lot like combat. It requires preparation, respect for the enemy, and total situational awareness. Holloway had none of these. He was treating a complex extraction like a drive-through service. Elias was in the scrub room. Technically, he was cleaning the sink, scrubbing the stainless steel until it shone. But in reality, he was watching through the glass. He was watching the anesthesiologist, Dr. Chen, who looked worried. "Dr. Holloway," Chen said, his voice trembling slightly. "His BP is a little soft, 90/60. Maybe we should get a fresh echo before we open? The visuals aren't matching the chart." "We don't have time, Chen," Holloway barked, snapping his gloves on. "It's anxiety. Push the propofol. Let's get this show on the road. I have a reservation at Le Bernardin at 7. Elias watched Holloway pick up the scalpel. He saw the arrogance in the surgeon's posture. Inside the OR, the atmosphere was wrong. The team was tense, not focused. They were afraid of the surgeon, not the procedure. Holloway made the first incision. The monitor beeped faster. 110, 120. The numbers were climbing, then crashing. "Pressure dropping, 70/40, Chen yelled. "Doctor, I'm seeing fluid accumulation on the scope. We're losing him." "It's just residual bleeding," Holloway insisted, sweat beading on his forehead but his ego refusing to accept the data. "Suction. I'm going for the valve. I need to relieve the pressure." Elias dropped his rag. He knew exactly what was happening. The shrapnel had nicked the posterior wall. The heart was filling with fluid, cardiac tamponade. If Holloway cut the valve now, he would release the back pressure keeping the boy alive, and the heart would explode. It was basic hydraulics. A nurse shouted as the double doors swung open. "Hey, you can't be in here. Sterile field." There is a moment in every disaster where a choice must be made. To follow the rules and watch a tragedy, or to break the rules and become the villain to save the hero. Elias Thorne didn't hesitate. He moved with the speed of a striking cobra. The limp vanished. He covered the 10 feet in a split second. Holloway raised the scalpel to plunge it into the heart. And then, Elias struck. Elias gripping Holloway's wrist. The entire room was frozen. The only sound was the frantic alarm of the monitor screaming a warning. "Security, get him off me!" Holloway struggled, but he might as well have been trying to move a mountain. "Chen!" Elias's voice boomed, commanding and authoritative. It wasn't the voice of a janitor. It was the voice of a man who had commanded squads under fire. "Look at the TEE. Look at the posterior wall behind the left atrium. Tell him what you see." Dr. Chen was shocked that the janitor even knew what a TEE, a transesophageal echocardiogram, was. He looked at the screen. His eyes went wide. "Oh my God," Chen whispered. "He's right. There's a shadow. It's a retrograde bleed. Dr. Holloway, if you cut the valve, he bleeds out instantly. The pressure is the only thing holding the aortic wall together." Holloway stopped struggling. He looked at the screen. The color drained from his face. The arrogance evaporated, replaced by the cold, hard realization that he was 1 second away from killing the Admiral's son. The room shifted. The hierarchy collapsed. The man in the expensive gown was paralyzed by panic. The man in the dirty jumpsuit was calm, calculating, and in control. Elias released the wrist, but he didn't step back. "You can't cut," Elias said, his voice lower now, intense. "You have to bypass. Clamp the aorta. Use a Satinsky clamp. Do a femoral cannulation to drain the blood before you open the chest further." Holloway was shaking. He dropped the scalpel. It clattered on the floor. I've never done a femoral cannulation with this much pressure. I can't. I'll lose him. Elias stepped closer. He didn't touch the patient. He knew that would compromise the sterility too much. But he leaned in, becoming the external brain for the surgeon. "Then listen to me," Elias commanded. "I've done this in the dirt with a pocket knife and a straw. You have a full OR. Pick up the clamp." For the next 15 minutes, the impossible happened. The janitor became the lead surgeon. He guided Holloway's hands with verbal precision. "Satinsky, now. Clamp high." "Good," Elias instructed. "Chen, drop the pressure to 60. Holloway, suture the tear. 4-0 Proline. Plagetted stitch. Don't tremble. Breathe. In 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. The nurses watched in awe. Holloway obeyed without question. The monitor slowly began to stabilize. The frantic beep slowed to a steady, strong rhythm. "BP is normalizing," Chen announced, relief washing over him. 110/70. Bleeding is stopped. We have stability." Holloway stepped back, sweat pouring down his face, soaking his mask. He ripped the mask off, gasping for air. Elias stepped back into the shadows, picking up his mop bucket as if nothing happened. The double doors burst open. It wasn't just hospital security. It was the Admiral's personal detail. Military police with sidearms entered the room, weapons drawn. Admiral Vance stormed in behind them, his face red with rage, expecting to find his son dead. "Everyone freeze, hands where I can see them," the head of security shouted. Elias slowly raised his hands. He looked tired. He looked like a janitor again, the command presence fading back into the gray. "Thank God," Holloway yelled, regaining his arrogance instantly now that the danger was past. "Admiral, this lunatic assaulted me. He broke into the OR. I want him charged. He nearly killed your son." Admiral Vance looked at the monitor. He saw the steady green line. He saw the successful repair. Then he looked at Holloway, who was trying to hide his shaking hands behind his back. Finally, Vance looked at the man in the gray jumpsuit standing calmly by the biohazard bin. He walked past the surgeon. He stopped inches from Elias. He stared at him, squinting. "Wait," Vance said softly. The context clicked into place. The hospital room faded away for the Admiral. He was back in 2012. "The Korengal Valley," Vance whispered. "Operation Silent Dawn. The Angel of Death Unit. Your Master Sergeant Thorne." The room went silent. The nurses gasped. Holloway's jaw dropped. "I go by Elias now, sir," the janitor said softly. "Just Elias." "They said you were dead," Vance said, his voice trembling with emotion. "They said your chopper went down in the mountains. We searched for days." "We got the wounded out, sir. That was the job," Elias replied. "After that, I decided I'd seen enough blood for one lifetime. I just wanted to be quiet. I wanted peace." Vance turned to Holloway. The look on the Admiral's face could have melted steel. "You wanted this man arrested?" Dr. Chen stepped forward bravely. "Admiral, with all due respect, Dr. Holloway missed the bleed. He was rushing. If Elias hadn't stopped him, if Elias hadn't talked us through the repair, James would be dead." Vance turned back to Elias. He saw the mop, He saw the jumpsuit. He saw the stains of cleaning fluid. And he saw the hero underneath. In the military, rank is respected, but competence is worshipped. Admiral Vance stood tall. He didn't see a janitor. He saw a brother in arms. Slowly, deliberately, Admiral Vance snapped a crisp, perfect salute to the janitor. "Thank you, Master Sergeant," Vance said, "for my son and for your service." Elias hesitated. Then, slowly, his posture changed. The slump disappeared. His spine straightened. He stood at attention and returned the salute. The fallout was swift. Dr. Holloway was removed from his position pending a full medical board review. His arrogance had finally cost him his crown. The testimony of Dr. Chen and the nurses ensured the truth was known. Admiral Vance offered Elias everything: a position as head of security, a role as a medical consultant, a pension, anything he wanted. He wanted to give the hero his due. But Elias declined. He didn't want a title. He didn't want the glory. He had emerged from the shadows to save a life because he had to, not because he wanted to be seen. And now, the shadows were calling him back. Elias packed his bag that evening. He walked out of the hospital doors into the cool evening air. He looked free. He moved on to the next town, the next hospital, the next floor that needed cleaning. Because true healers don't do it for the applause. They don't do it for the money. They do it because they can't help themselves. They do it because the code is silent, but it is binding. There are heroes walking past you every day, disguised as ordinary people. Be kind to them. You never know when your life might be in their hands. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe to The Silent Code, and check out other videos on our channel. Stay silent. Stay observant. We'll see you in the next one.